All right, so welcome to the program today. I promise we have a lot of things we're talking about today, and one such person, a special guest today, is Lenny Taylor. He's football coach, big stalwart out of Jamaica, and they did a lot of tours and coached some national teams as well within various groups and so forth. So we wanted to talk to Lenny today. Just to get his perspective, a little bit of historical precedence on himself, let him introduce himself to you guys, and then we go from there. All right, so welcome to the program today, Lenny Taylor. How you doing, man?
Doing wonderful. How about yourself?
Boy, I'm all right, just there, just glad for being at the
Okay.
spirit, in the presence of someone of your stature, in this live call right now. So we want to talk to you about some ball thing. World Cup just finished. How you feel about the World Cup this year, man?
World Cup was very interesting, as it always do in its own right.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the team that I thought would win
Hmm.
fell short, which is Brazil.
Yeah.
And another difficulty is the fact that Pele held on. He was holding on
Yes.
for Brazil to win,
Hmm.
and I thought with the loss of Brazil. Um, he, he transitioned,
Yeah.
he fought through and he held on. Um, so we're sorry that that happens, but God giveth, God taketh. Blessed is the name of the Lord.
Amen.
He knows best.
Definitely.
But the cup was interesting,
Hmm.
and it shows now that smaller teams,
Hmm.
are less legendary teams
Hmm.
with right preparation, determination, and a long-term strategy to succeed, have done it. You
Yeah.
know, and this is a situation where it shows that smaller territories can do well. They might not be ready to win the World Cup as yet,
Right.
but they can. They're doing much better.
Hmm.
The advent of FIFA subsidy, where they're helping the countries to fund their football development,
Hmm.
I think it's paying off. So it was wonderful to see the matches finished on a high note.
Yeah.
I don't think that we have ever seen such an exciting finish
Yes.
as we saw, with Argentina and France.
Hmm.
So I see that, you know, the game is here, it's getting stronger,
Hmm.
and I recommend that all who is involved try to make themselves competitive because it's a multi-billion dollar sport.
Hmm.
And if you work hard and prepare, you can be in the mix.
True that. Now, for those joining us, we're with Lenny Taylor, football coach, football player, ball player. So we call it football, right? um,
Absolutely.
but the thing is, I want to ask you. I know we just jumped right into it, but let the people know who Lenny Taylor is. I see you have a nickname, Kilroy, and I was looking you up, and I see you're a part of so many teams, from youth teams to adult. That's what I'm calling them, adult senior teams. Tell the people who is Lenny Taylor.
Lenny Taylor is a humble brethren who was born in Darlingston, Westmoreland,
Mm.
migrated to Kingston at an early age. I'd say maybe 10 or 11 years old. Attended Trenchtown Elementary School and Trenchtown Comprehensive
Okay.
High School, and migrated to Brooklyn, New York in the mid 60s. My
Mm-hmm.
parents moved to the US,
Mm.
where I went to school. I went to the legendary Boys High School in Brooklyn before it became Boys and Girls.
Okay.
Just, yes, yes, in Bedford Stuyvesant, just down the road from the Marcy Projects, where Jay-Z comes from. Yeah,
Shout out to
and
Brooklyn in the building.
yeah, absolutely. And then from there, after high school graduation, I went to New York City Community College. And from there, All American, and from there into Long Island University.
Blackbirds in the building too.
Okay, like Bird for Life. And from there, I was drafted by the New York Cosmos
Hmm.
from Long Island University in 1993. Have a short stint there, and then decided that coaching would be my career,
Hmm.
and begin at 1974, and studied coaching, and have not been able to leave it up until now.
What is the lore? First of all, shout outs to all the Blackbirds in the building. I myself a Blackbird. You left the Blackbirds when I was just being born, Lenny. And that's why I like this level of interest and connect, man. I like that. Um, but you've played for a while in football. But you said
Yes.
coaching is what keeps you in the sport. What is it about the coaching that keeps you there?
Well, it happens in a very funny way. Back in the days with the NASL
Hmm.
and the advent of, I'll be short on this, the advent of bringing the top players into the NASL, Pele, Beckenbauer, Carlos Alberto, Bogicevic, Marinho, um, the top European players.
Hmm.
I would say me with my mediocre talent knew that I wouldn't have a long career. So I took an exit strategy
Yeah.
within the game and knew that the game would be a big game in the United States
Hmm.
because of the investment which they have done in the NASL and brought all these top players over.
NASL
Johan
means what?
Cruyff,
National Association of Soccer League?
North American Soccer
North
League.
American Soccer League. Okay.
And from once Pele came, and the top players from around the world who came, who wanted to play with him came, I knew it was going to take off. Didn't know
Hmm.
when, but I knew that for the longevity at that time, a good friend, well, not a Blackbird, his name is Ray Klivecka, who was coaching at City College of New York, invited me to come over to be his assistant coach. Why? He had a lot of Jamaican players, and
Hmm.
I, had a pretty big name in New York City.
Yeah.
And then he says, well, you should go to coaching school, and encouraged me to. I
Hmm.
went. I get all the license, the C license, the B license, the A license, and I was just hooked. You know, was so much information more than I thought that was in football.
Hmm.
When I studied the technical part of it, I loved it
Yeah.
and decided that this was something that I'm going to do for the rest of my life.
No.
I was about 25, 26 then, or
Hmm.
maybe a little bit younger. So I still continue playing in the semi-professional leagues in New York, Inter Juliana, um, New York Inter, where I played for many years, um, and played with one of the top Jamaican goalkeepers that ever played for Jamaica. His name is Dan Clark. So I played there on the weekends, practice one night a week to maintain being a player. But then my focus was now in coaching.
Hmm.
So by 1979, I earned the A license,
Hmm.
and I decided that I needed a team of my own. So rather than being an assistant coach, I applied for the head coach at Long Island I mean at Medgaravers College.
Yeah.
A, 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 a branch of the City University of New York, of CUNY,
Yeah, I know
and
Medgar
got my
Evers.
own team. Yes, and
Mm-hmm.
from there on, I was empowered and I continued um, up to what I'm doing today. So it's a straight, uninterrupted studying and learning and coaching and traveling and learning
Yeah.
and put, I would say, over 40 years in the business as a coach.
That's remarkable, Coach. But one of the things I want to tell, if you just join us, we're talking to Lenny Taylor, a football coach. You just heard him, over 40 years experience coaching, with the various licensing. The question I want to ask you is, do you say the North American Soccer League, was that disbanded when the MLS started in 93, or was that a transformation?
Well, not actually. There was a pause in between.
Mm-hmm.
So the yeah, NASL folded after, actually after Pele retired from playing. And folks don't know that Pele was the drawing card for that league. That league, when I got into it, you'd get 500 to 5,000 people per game, sometimes less.
Mm.
As Pele came, it jumped to 62,000 people per game attending the matches. So that draw, when he retired, the league ended up folding. And there were another interim league or a less approach to the NASL. And until 1994 World Cup, when the US hosted the World Cup, part of the deal was to start a professional league back again. So FIFA helped with some investment, and then this new league
Mm-hmm.
started up 1996 called the present league that we have now,
The MLS, Major League
MLS.
Soccer.
MLS,
Right.
yes.
Okay. Okay.
So that was started in 96 and it went from strength to strength. They continued with the invitation of the foreign stars, and the American football came of age where the American players were able to start playing in the professional leagues, and it went from strength to strength to what it is now. But let's thank Pele
Mm-hmm.
as the catalyst who made this happen and the father of soccer in the United States. There's a lot of people who don't know this because they were not around.
Yeah.
But in order for soccer to be where it is today, it had to be Pele and his star statute that brought it back and gave the game to America. So I consider him the father of the professional leagues in the United States.
You mentioned Pele in several ways, and you've referenced his impact on the sport and on different leagues across the globe. Recently, there have been people, comparing athletes, and the comparison now came up with Bolt and Pele. Are they on the same stratosphere, or is that you shouldn't be comparing the two different sports, the two different athletes?
Apples and oranges.
Right.
That's apples and oranges.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I said that is Pele, 58, 16 and a half, 17 years old,
Yeah.
a world champion at that tender age. He was not just world champion, but the leading scorer and 3 World Cups, stopping wars for people to put their weapons down just to see him play. A national icon that could not play anywhere else in the world but in Brazil. Um, the amount of goals that he scored is so many.
Mm.
But away from that, he was a poster boy for the game, not just in Brazil, but throughout the world. And
Hmm.
he is the person that all others are measured against.
This is true.
So, so the greatness of this man, um, I think it's going to take us another decade to realize what he has done
Hmm.
and what he has done for the sport and the tremendous human being that he is. He
Hmm.
was. He's the goat by all standard of the with by he's the goat of all goats,
The goat of
not
all
just
goats.
not just in soccer, but as a sportsman, he is the goat of all goats.
Well, you heard it from Lenny Taylor, football coach, that Pele is the GOAT of all GOATs. So that ends it. No more LeBron, no more Michael Jordan, no, no more Wayne Gretzky. It is Nascimento Pele. All right.
That's correct.
So let's shift a little bit because you talk about the essence of Pele. Now let's and what how the MLS came about as part of the bid for the U.S. I think they formed the league in '93, and then the first season was '96 after they hosted the World Cup. Now, the question is, all right, Jamaica had the Reggae Boys in '98, and but since then the team has seemingly struggled to make the World Cup, to stay in the top 100 also, in the list of countries, ball countries. Is Jamaica expecting too much from its program?
Maybe so, because the level of development that Jamaica have, might be a little bit too much to get to where they need to get to be a world power. Our standard reference point is 98 in the World Cup in France. Um, I'll make it real easy.
Okay.
One of the countries that I think Jamaica beat in France was Japan. And compare the growth and development of Japan today to where Jamaica is. We've seen Japan played in this last World Cup, and they played some wonderful football. So if we'll go back to Japan 98, Jamaica, and we equate Japan 2022, Jamaica 2022, there's a massive distance that Japan has grown. Well, what has Japan did? So we have to look at what they did and the investment, the development of their players. They made sure they developed their young people. They started playing internationally. They put a lot of money in the sport. Um, if you compare and contrast both countries, you see there's a big gap in development. So I do believe that's where the difference is. We haven't developed enough. We competed a lot, but we did not develop as the rest of the countries have done.
Mm.
So based on that, we still have quite a bit of growth to do to be able to compete with the bigger countries of the world. So let's break it down a little bit.
Okay.
Okay, Japan developed by using their players. So they have developed their players. So the philosophy that got Jamaica 1998 by bringing in the diaspora players is the program that they're still using today. And they have not developed enough the players that are home based. So consequently, until that is done, and that takes a while, just to be dependent on diaspora players, it has proved over the years that that is not 100% workable. So we have to change our philosophy and establish some other program to work in conjunction with the diaspora players so
Mm.
we can move forward. So that's my evaluation of Jamaica has they have resigned to the fact that we're only going to use this by having top players who've played in top leagues or second leagues in the world, and that's great. But I do believe that home-based players needs to be developed so that they can come at equilibrium with the foreign-based players. And I think in that way, success will come a little bit quicker.
All right. You touch on something important and kind of crazy. I know it's a Clarendon casualty, this guy a couple years ago, and Keith Wellington had to come out and say, "Hey, we can't have the man playing in the day because I'm playing professional." Very good player. So my question is, could schoolboy football be one of the Achilles to the development of Jamaica's football program, or is it a catalyst? What role does schoolboy football play in Jamaica to this
Oh,
development?
that's the big elephant in the room. And the reason I say that is it's a different reason. Let's say it this way. Schoolboy football in Jamaica is to entertain um, the alumni association of each school. It is a bragging rights that has started many years ago, but it's not exactly a pathway to the full national program because there is no single development philosophy that is going to take the schoolboys in through the national program. If you look at America where we are,
Right.
yes, they play high school.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they play college, but they also have a development program geared towards their national team setup.
Right.
So the reason for playing and training is for entertainment, while it's got to be development to prepare players to play on the national team of Jamaica, not just to play to satisfy our bragging rights for the alumni associations. So it's two different motives.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone needs to come from the same general acceptable principle to develop that small population of football players in Jamaica together.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the US is doing with their schoolboy. So consequently, at the end of the turnpike, everyone is playing the same sort of system. Everyone has the same motivation. While compare and contrast to Jamaica, the schoolboys, the program is not set up for national development. It's bragging rights, and I'm repeating again, among the alumni associations.
Original Trauma Khan, and the reason I said that, I'm a track and field man, and
Okay.
I share a similar sentiment that the programs are not geared towards our overall national development, and I get it. A high school program is extracurricular activity, but you can't say it's
Right.
extracurricular activity for the high school. But then you have these alumni who are saying, no, we must win at all costs, at any cost. So we're gonna
That's
get
correct.
these programs, these coaches, and we're gonna do it our way. And then
That's correct.
when a team loses 2 years straight, you fire the coach and get a new coach, like it's a club system. But it just
Right.
doesn't make. There's no congruence, so to speak, in
That's
how the
correct.
players and the parts move through the system. So again, like you say,
You're
at the
you're
end
correct.
at the end of the turnpike, what is there? you
That's
know.
correct.
So,
That's correct. That's correct. But it could be easily construed
uh
that we can get together. ISA can come together with JFF and work together so at the end of the turnpike, there are benefits to be derived by the National Association.
huh.
But then you have one important thing in the mix, which is culture.
Mm.
And the culture, I don't believe would adhere to such a program, again, because of the history of playing Manning and DeCosta,
Uh huh.
the role that it plays in the society. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you'd have to change now the sociology of sports to gear everything coming down the same turnpike. I don't know how many people would want to accept that.
Ah. So there's a societal struggle as well.
Absolutely.
This thing is, and I feel like that's why I feel some kind of way that when the team does not perform well, when people get upset about this coach, that coach, or this player, why bench this one and that one, and I'm just saying Jamaica is not a ball country, so to speak, because we really haven't shown a full blueprint of a sustainable plan that goes
Ah,
generation over generation.
oh, you have just touched it right there. The long-term strategic development
Mm-hmm.
is not in place and it's been followed for 3 to 5 years. So year 6, year 7, you can derive the benefit from that strategic development plan.
Mm-hmm.
So you're 100% correct.
And I'm glad you use that comparison to Japan, what Japan has done,
Yes,
having lost to Jamaica some 20 years ago, and now look at
absolutely.
Japan, attempting to set the ball
Absolutely.
around. But anyhow, Lenny, I'm telling you, this conversation we're gonna keep rolling for a couple more minutes. But definitely I appreciate the insight that you're sharing with us. Um, there's something else I wanted to talk to you about. You've had some coaching stints with some international teams, right?
Right. That's correct.
Some what we'd call them smaller countries, as
That's
in
correct.
relation to the size, of Jamaica.
That's correct.
St. Vincent the Grenadines, St. Kitts and Nevis. How did you
That's correct.
become technical director, and what was it and how was that experience for you?
Good. Well, I started working internationally 19, let's see, 1993. There was an old program of called the Caribbean Professional Football League that was started in the Caribbean. Had a short lifespan,
Mm-hmm.
but um, so I earned my A license at 28 years old, and after working, teaching a lot of courses in the U.S. for U.S. soccer, and done I think quite a bit of stuff. Um, there's a glass ceiling that I wasn't able to crack, where people who have trained as a coach through
Yeah.
the educational program, they were able to move in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
I was concerned that with all the information and the effort that I've put in this sport, I was being left back. So I jumped on that opportunity to join that Caribbean Professional League.
Okay.
It was short-lived because it did not have the investment that was necessary for the league to finish.
Mm.
But I was involved as a part owner in the St. Vincent program, the St. Vincent franchise called Hyroon Lions.
Mm-hmm.
And I coached the program, I coached the team for 2 years. And after they pulled, the league went belly up 1994. No, it was 1994.
Mm-hmm.
the federation asked me to stay along to coach the national team. And
Okay.
most of the players that were on that club team were members of the national team. So we did well. That's at that time it was called Shell Caribbean Cup.
Yeah, I
So
think I
I
remember
coached
that.
nine. Yes, yes. So I coached 94. We did well. We got to the finals in Jamaica.
Uh-huh.
The final eight teams. 95 team. We did not lose any games in the Caribbean until the final game. We lost against Trinidad and Tobago.
Mm.
The Dwight York teams, those players. My team was a young group of kids who were, I think the average age was 22 years old. So we had 17 and 18-year-old boys. Um, at those days, in order to go to the Gold Cup, you had to win the Shell Cup or runner-up, means you're second place. I beat Cuba, which nobody beat in the Caribbean for a decade prior to me beating them in Cayman,
Mm.
and then lost to Trinidad, and then we qualified for the CONCACAF Gold Cup. That
Okay.
was 1996. So we played in the CONCACAF Gold Cup, and of course we didn't do that well because we were playing the Mexicos of the world, etc.
CONCACAF
Then
is a hard group, you know. CONCACAF is a hard group to be in, you know, man.
very, very tough, very tough.
Mm-hmm.
And then they called me back to do the 2002 World Cup qualifying, which I did. We got to the second round. I remember a tough game we had against Jamaica that we lost 2-0. Very good game at the office. And I think people realize that there's something going on with this guy. So 2005, I was invited to be the technical director of St. Kitts Nevis. I stayed for 4 years. And again, we did very well with the under 20s, getting to the final of CONCACAF. Lost out by I would say, if we had tied Costa Rica and we tied Jamaica. So we lost to Costa Rica, tied to Jamaica, and we barely missed going to the under 20 World Cup.
Mm.
So since then, I came back to the US and went back into coaching education. And then St. Kitts called me back this 4 or 5 months ago to rebuild the program and to set up a long-term development strategy for 2026. As you know, 2026, there's about 7 spots in CONCACAF. US, Canada, and Mexico won't compete to qualify because they are home court.
Mm-hmm.
So they felt like if we get started early, put the youths together, bringing a few diaspora players, the chances are good that you might be able to get in. So that's the program that I'm on now.
Okay.
And we have started. We are enjoying it, and we're building from the ground up from the grassroots to the under 14s, to the under 15s, to the under 17s, to the under 20s. So we're working on a program for 2026 and beyond.
All right. That sounds like a good plan, Coach.
We're on it.
All right, Coach. Definitely want to say thank you, man, for all the information you shared. You really good conversation, man. Because you laid some. Because I think some people never understood the level at which Pele was so important, not just to the sport, but to the world. Like you say, he got people to put their arms down.
Yes.
And that is big right now. Because there are certain areas of the world could use that every day of the year. And
absolutely.
Your insights as to what needs to happen in Jamaica with the schoolboy football and the national team and so forth. A lot of that comes from a national investment. And
That's great.
you said with some people jumping in and out of it, but that whole push behind it to really
Yes.
solidify its growth and development. Um,
Yes.
yes, coach. As we said, I don't want to take up too much more of your time still, but we just want to say thank you for joining us here on the show, and we wish you all the best. In your future endeavors with the 2026 program. That it shows the fruits will come to bear, as they say.
Yes. 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 I thank you very much. And in parting, I will say the Caribbean on a whole is very talented, fast, strong, somewhat technical, but the brain centered approach to playing football needs to be emphasized. Jamaica is very talented, have a lot of talented players. The people love the game, and hopefully things can be put in place, not just in Jamaica, but across the Caribbean. This is a multi-billion dollar business, and we should not be just be at the periphery of it.
Mm-hmm.
So we hope that the Caribbean can put their houses together and create opportunities for our young people. It's the greatest way of diverting, um, as we would call it, badness, or, you know, football is a great tool to help society's problem.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to organize it properly, bring the youth to the game, and hopefully create more millionaires as the few that we have had already. So, in parting, I thank you very much for the opportunity to speak, and I hope that it could touch some people's heart so they can do the things that are necessary to help our young people in the Caribbean.
All right, coach. Again, family, Lenny Taylor, big time coach, Jamaica and across the world.